Is this thing on? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. If you're new to this channel, I'll explain to you who I am and how I do things. I am a huge DC live action fan. I'm also a huge fan of Zack Snyder's DCEU movies. I love them. But I'm someone who believes that all DC fans should be getting what they want. Now, of course, you can't please all of the people all of the time, but there should be a universe where everyone can come into and enjoy. It's the way the MCU has been set up. You can like Iron Man, but then you may not like Thor, but then you'll like Captain America. There's something for everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's why it works. The actual problem with the Snyderverse was that they brought in an auteur director in to run a mainstream universe. They wanted a mainstream universe. They wanted a Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they said to Christopher Nolan, well, you've just made this amazing Batman trilogy. It's all yours, baby. You godfather this. Bring in who you want. Well, Christopher Nolan's an auteur director, right? Who's he going to bring in? The only reason Nolan didn't direct Man of Steel because he didn't think visually he could do the character justice. So Zack Snyder rang his bells in so many ways. Auteur director, partnership with his wife Deb, and just like Chris has got a business partnership with his wife Emma. They sat down and they spoke, right? This was always going to happen. Instead of saying, do you know what? At the time, Kevin Sujihara, right, we want a mainstream universe, right? We have Jeff Johns basically running, DC Entertainment at the time, right? Let's just give it to Jeff. Let's let Jeff make it comic booky, mainstream, because that's how Jeff Johns sees it. He could have run it. He could have done exactly what Feige did. But they brought Jeff Johns in later on in the game to interfere with what Snyder was doing. That's why that relationship was problematic. So this universe has been a problem from the beginning because you brought an out there kind of visionary in to do something that the studio wanted as mainstream. So it's my belief that the DC live action universe should be for everyone. Now, I really feel sorry for David Zaslav and Discovery because they're coming in to a landmine where they have to tread carefully. And the problem is not what they're going to do with the rest of the movies. It's what they're going to do with DC that everyone's talking about, because that's where the financial capacity and potential is to make loads of money if it's done properly. And so this is how I see the problem thus far. What this video is about is for me to calm everyone down about the Flash test screenings and what's going on. And, because I think it's all very well to say, Henry Cavill's been replaced by Supergirl. I did it on my very first video today. It was wrong because I didn't have all of the information. And as I said in my second video, I was more excited for what they were planning after I had all the information. Now, Walter Hamada was brought in as DC Films president in 2017. Now, Walter had a really tough act. He needed to come in and find a bridge between a Snyderverse and going to kind of a mainstream family audience. Again, such a hard thing. And no matter what he did, one side would hate him and maybe the other side would love him. Now, he was involved from the very first Aquaman movie. Now, some people say he wasn't involved in Aquaman. He was. Go and look at the end credits. You'll see producer Walter Hamada, one of many producers. So that was his first DC Extended Universe movie that made $1 billion. Shazam made a profit, just under 400 million, but it was very cheaply made. Birds of Prey was a flop and a clusterfuck because Walter wasn't in control. That was way above his pay grade because Toby Emmerich went above his head and gave all control to Margot Robbie and her lucky chap production company. I want you to understand the situation. I've explained to you the Snyderverse and what went wrong there and what's still an issue. So I'm explaining to you, I'm trying to be balanced with you. Wonder Woman 84, Toby Emmerich again went over Walter Hamada's head and gave Patty Jenkins creative control. That's what went wrong there. Now, with the Joker movie, Walter had doubts about that as well. Now, this time Toby Emmerich went above his head, but that was a good decision because basically, Walter was understandably worried because he kind of saw what happened with the Snyderverse and he kind of thought, we're doing this again. And I think it was because of Walter Hamada that they said, right, this movie has to be outside of the DCEU, just like the Batman. So I think there needs to be context in what we're saying because there's a lot of hatred from the Snyderverse fandom towards Walter Hamada. I am a fan of the Snyderverse as well, but I'm also an all-round DC fan. So if you don't like the Snyderverse and you're wondering, maybe I shouldn't be part of this community here on Movies TV Mad, I can tell you that I want all opinions to be represented on this channel because DC is for everyone. Entertainment is for everyone. We are an entertainment discussion channel. First and foremost, we talk about DC, but you come here on my lives in the evening, you can talk about anything in entertainment. I will respect you. I will be nice. I will be, kind and compassionate towards you, unless you're being rude or, you're trying to cause problems. So that's different. Then I have to be the tough referee. I have to give you some tough love. So that's where we are with the DCEU. The mistake was made from the beginning. I wouldn't swap the Snyderverse for anything. But the truth is, you don't bring Zack Snyder to run a mainstream universe. So now we have to talk about these multiple test screenings. Now, before I start on that, I want to say something. The DC Extended Universe is in flux. It is in flux right now, no matter what you're hearing about these test screenings, because we're getting new leadership. Discovery have now merged with Warner Media. This will be official on the 11th of April. This will turn Warner Media into Warner Brothers Discovery. So with new leadership, anything can change at any time. These plans can change at any time. I want you to understand that. I said this on my very first DCEU Daily of the day. So, what is going on? So, first and foremost, we know the Flash movie will reboot the DCEU using the Flash's powers because he uses the Speed Force. He can run faster, travel faster than the speed of light, basically like the DeLorean in Back to the Future. That's how you time travel in fiction, right? So that's how it works. So this movie will use the Flash's abilities to reboot the timeline, where when we finish with this movie and he goes back to Earth 1, he's in a rebooted universe. So how can he be in a rebooted universe? There's only one way. Either he reboots the Earth or he reboots the entire multiverse. The Flash movie will introduce all versions from different live action iterations and make them canon. This, again, is by rebooting the multiverse. So basically, different worlds are converging with the DCEU Earth 1. I'm trying to explain this as straightforward as possible because it is confusing, but I expect the movie to do a better job of that than me. Then otherwise, we truly are fucked, right? So Barry goes back in time to save his dead mother. He does. He creates a Flashpoint world. Michael Keaton's Batman's there. Sasha Calle's Supergirl's there. So let's start on some of this information we've heard about the test screenings. First and foremost, we know that Barry will tread in a few of the movies, including Man of Steel. In fact, Man of Steel may even be the only movie he treads in. That's the only one we know about thus far. Now, one of the things we've heard is that General Zod, played by Michael Shannon in Man of Steel, will murder the baby Kal-El, aka Superman, when he's a baby. Now, all we've heard about this is that happens, and then Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, will replace Henry Cavill's Superman. So the context of this comes out and everyone reacts to it. Ridiculous, Supergirl's replacing Superman. I said it on my first video, my DCEU Daily, my first DCEU Daily of the day. But I didn't have any context. And I was like you lot, reacting on information I just received. That's how the internet works. And most of the time, it isn't a good thing. So I don't see how she's replacing Superman because he gets murdered as a child. Because if he goes back, when he goes back to the DCEU Earth 1, I don't think that's happened in that world. Because how do they explain it? Surely the context of this is that Kal-El is murdered by General Zod as a baby on one of the other Earths. I believe, and again, I don't know these things as a fact, but I'm trying to explain them as well as I can. I believe that the baby Kal-El is murdered by General Zod in the Flashpoint universe. It's the only thing that makes sense. It's a bit like in Jeff Johns' Flashpoint graphic novel that you've got the Amazonians warring with the Atlanteans, right? It's a different thing going on in this universe. Barry has changed the timeline, and this is what's going on now. So this is what I believe is happening. 2, the people who have seen the test screening have leaked that Henry Cavill doesn't appear in this movie. He probably is going to be in this movie. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. Now, we're talking about what's happening now with WB Pictures' plans because, as I said, the DCEU is in flux, and with new leadership, things can change very quickly, as I've already said. So we're talking about what's going to happen from now. That could change. So I believe they purposely left Henry Cavill out. Now, we've also heard that the Snyderverse will be left in a pocket universe by the end of this film. Of course, this is a good thing, but I also believe this has been done for a reason. We've also been told that Batfleck has been left kind of on the shelf in a way, and he's not killed off. I'm going to predict that Batfleck is probably trapped on the Snyderverse, and he's not in Earth 1 anymore. I think this is what's going on here. So, at the end of the movie, we've been told that Batfleck reaches Barry Allen, the Flash, and basically warns him about a crisis coming. Either Final Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths, and warns him maybe that Darkseid's coming. So they do tease Final Crisis, Batfleck does, at the end of this movie. So how is this going to work? Well, I believe by the end of the film, they've rebooted it. There's brand new characters of these iconic DC characters in a new rebooted Earth 1. But that's not the end of the Snyderverse. What they're doing is building up to a Final Crisis event. Either 1 movie, 2 movies, or 3 movies, whatever they're planning. I believe that this is WB Pictures' olive branch to Zack Snyder. And it's as the scooper KC Walsh said, there's no Justice League 2 and 3, but I do believe that Zack Snyder will direct a Final Crisis movie, or 2 or 3, or whatever they're doing in this arc. This is going to be the new DCEU story arc. Now, as I say, I think Darkseid will be the major threat because this won't be a copy and pasted Crisis on Infinite Earths or Final Crisis. What they're going to do, as I say, this is an olive branch to Zack Snyder. So Zack Snyder will be allowed to do what he was going to do in JL2 and JL3 mostly. Use Darkseid, wrap up his character's story. And what happens is then his Justice League characters are united with the Earth 1's brand new rebooted Justice League. They unite together, along with the Arrowverse's Justice League, to fight Darkseid in some kind of Crisis on Infinite Earth story. That's where I believe we are heading here. So he will be able to do most of the stuff he wanted to do in JL2 and JL3. Then Zack, in this movie or 2 or 3 movies, Zack wraps up his story, and then it's over to the new guys, the new kids on the block in Earth 1. Snyder's story and his character's story is wrapped up. So if WB Pictures still want Cavill to be involved in Earth 1, he will remain there. If they want Momoa and Gadget's, Wonder Woman and Aquaman to still be involved in Earth 1, then that will happen. But what this is about is an olive branch and a brand new setup, basically to set up the new universe they've rebooted at the end of the Flash movie. Everyone's happy. Zack's initiated his arc. He's done his arc. Zack was always going to do a Flashpoint himself after Justice League 3. Then the new creative could come in and start again. Exactly what they're doing in the Flash movie. As I said earlier, Walter Hamada had a really difficult thing here, as does David Zaslav in Discovery. They've got really hard decisions to make because of what happened from the beginning. Bringing in an auteur director in a universe you want for families and children. You wanted it to be the MCU, but you put the wrong man in charge. As I say, I wouldn't swap those movies, but, you know, you don't bring an axe to chop flowers, right? That's my analogy there. And that's the problem. Zack Snyder isn't the problem. Zack Snyder's only going to do what Zack Snyder's always going to do. You know, and that's the issue here. So Walter Hamada had to come up with this. Now, Walter Hamada did something very good. He told the studio that he wanted to work with Jim Lee from the very beginning when he came in. So he's basically in charge of the entire of DC. Not just the films, but everything. So Jim Lee has been a great advisor to Walter Hamada, and they've come up with this multiverse strategy. And I think this Final Crisis storyline is actually something that Jim Lee's always wanted to see in film. So Jim's a great guy. He knows DC so well. I'd love to see him in charge of a DC Studios as well. So I think Jim's influence here has been paramount and so important to Walter Hamada. So this is what's going on. They're even working on a Flash sequel, apparently. So this is how I see things. Now I kind of understand why they're delaying things. I think the delay comes from because they don't know if they can go ahead with this, and they need it rubber stamped from Zaslav and Discovery, and this is where the issues come in. But I think if everyone can work together amicably, Zack Snyder, Walter Hamada, Jim Lee, and they allow Zack to direct this Final Crisis, and he can wrap up his arc while starting up this new era over on Earth 1, I actually think this is the cleanest way of doing things. Because at the end of the day, what happens is, if Zack does JL2 and 3, which I'd love still to happen, it's how do you get the same actors who are part of that Justice League to be involved in both? How do you do it? How do you sort the scheduling? But in this way, they're all going to be in the same movie, and this is a way of explaining to the audience what the fuck's going on with the multiverse. I think this is the best way of doing it. So you get an epic Flash movie that does represent Superman, but he and Batfleck vanish because they're separated into the Snyderverse, and that's why they're not there anymore. Now, this is what's not being explained to you via people who are finding out about these test screenings. You're not being told this because these people just want to say to you, Superman's been replaced by Supergirl. That's it. That's what they want to say to you because they want you upset. They want you triggered because triggered people react and quote tweet and comment on YouTube channels and posts, and this is what they want you to be angry. I'm telling you, as an all-round DC fan and a huge DCEU Snyderverse fan, that this is the best way to clean up this mess, everyone. And it is a mess. Now, I know a lot of you Snyder fans, and you will want more. You will want JL2. You will want JL3. And you will want to make the Batfleck movie. A movie I would have loved to have seen. Now, I don't know if that's possible for him to make that movie, let's say, in between the first Flash movie and in between maybe Flash 2 or the actual Final Crisis movie. That could still be possible. I don't know what they're thinking there. Clearly, Ben has a good relationship now with WB, which I'm happy about. So, for me, this is the best way of dealing with all of this. And as I say, I do think Cavill's Superman is in Shazam somehow, and I do believe he's in Black Adam, and I do believe he will play a small role in the Flash movie. And I think then he will vanish after Flashpoint, and then Zack's Justice League and the new Justice League and Arrowverse will unite to fight Darkseid, because this enacts Zack's arc. Now, could we have a Final Crisis 1, a Final Crisis 2, a Final Crisis 3? It could be something like that. So ultimately, you're still getting JL2 and JL3, but it's in the guise of a Final Crisis movie. So all of this is the best way for me. But this is where the other side of it comes in. With new leadership, the DCEU is in flux. The DCEU needs fixing, right? Now, people on the Snyderverse side will just say, restore the Snyderverse, let him do JL2 and 3, make the Batfleck movie, and, you know, let him finish off his arc, right? That's what you want. But I've kind of explained why that's difficult. I want that as well, but it's not practical. Doing it this way, you can wrap up Zack's arc and you can start something new. And as an all-round DC fan and a Snyder fan of the DCEU, I want both. I want a healthy DC live-action universe where you've got a great Earth 1, you've got Matt Reeves' fantastic Earth 2, you've got the Joker universe and so many other things. And now Arrowverse and everything live-action from the past is now canon. This is extremely exciting if it's executed properly. And I believe they're really trying hard to execute this properly. Because now I know all the facts, I'm not triggered, you know. You're triggered, I'm not now. I'm calm now because I understand what they're doing. And the audiences who have gone to see this movie have liked it. But I'm sure, like all of us, they don't want a world where Supergirl replaces Superman. So at first, that will be the case. Excuse me. Sasha Calle's Supergirl will be in the rebooted DCEU of 1, and Cavill's Superman won't be. But by the time we get to Final Crisis, there will be a reunion, and they will all get together, and it's going to be very, very exciting. Now, David Zaslav and Discovery are going to have to rubber stamp this, and this is why this movie has been delayed. Of course, there's other reasons, of course, because they didn't have enough movies for next year, so they had to split them up. Maybe that was their plan all along, because 2023 was looking pretty empty. Probably because they were planning to do Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman for 2023, and things haven't worked out because we haven't heard anything. Again, as I said earlier today, they can't rubber stamp anything until the takeover. This is the problematic issue with a takeover, because there's no point there's no point green lighting, and then when they come and say no, we don't want to do this. So this is why they've delayed the Flash movie. So now we have to wait and see if this is something that Zaslav and Discovery want to do. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens here. But I do think it's an exciting plan that can make everyone happy. So I repeat, when you hear people saying Sasha Calle is replacing Henry Cavill, I want you to remember that they're just trying to upset you and trigger you. That I'm trying to explain to you that everything's going to be all right. This plan, the Walter Hamada Jim Lee plan, is actually a good one. It's an olive branch to Zack Snyder, which Jim Lee has always said. He's always said, you know, everyone's a DC fan when that question has been put to him about the Snyderverse fandom. So I believe Jim Lee has been a great influence on Walter Hamada and the brilliant plan we're getting now. And it will be an olive branch where Zack can do what he was going to do anyway with JL2 and 3. Please comment down below and let me know what you think about this. But for me, this is the cleanest way to wrap up Zack's universe and start afresh. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again later on. Until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. See you later.